Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Handhelds. Today we're going to talk about the Anbernic RG556 since it just went up for pre-order, and I want to do a before you buy video just to kind of walk you through the specs, what it is, what it does, and just go over if it might be something for you to pre-order or maybe just wait for a little bit more information. So for those that don't know, the 556 just went up for pre-order today, and you'll have a $10 discount for the next month, so up till March 5th. And it's $175 US or $185 US after the 5th. There are two different color options here. There's a transparent blue as well as a black. And it's kind of a miss to not include other color options here because when you have a Retro Pocket 4 that has a bunch of different colors, you have the Odin 2 which has a bunch of different colors. So it's kind of sad to see that Anbernic is just not doing more colors than black and blue, but it's all we got right now. But let's talk about what makes this device special, or maybe why you would buy it, what it does differently than the Retro Pocket 4, because that's the same price range, and all of that. And the one major difference that a lot of people are going to point to is there's an OLED screen. It's a 5.5 inch OLED screen, 1080p. And that's pretty big because there isn't really any OLED options in this price range. But the one caveat being that we don't know what OLED screen is being used. So while it's awesome to see OLED is fantastic. I have multiple OLED devices and TVs in my house. I love OLED. There are different ranges to OLED. Not all OLED panels are great. Some are bad, like the old beta screens, for example. And so we don't know what's actually being used in here. And so we'll just kind of temper expectations until we see what type of OLED is used. Next up is the chip, and it's using a T820 chip. This theoretically should be on par or maybe a little bit less than the Retro Pocket 4 base, so not the 4 Pro. And it should be better than something like the 405M, 405V, and every other T618 device. Significantly better than those. And that puts this in the range of GameCube, PlayStation 2, and native resolutions for those, and probably not the entire catalogs, most likely maybe half. I'm just guessing here. We don't know what this chip can actually do, and so we're kind of just going blind here into what it does. Now, if you watched their unboxing video, you saw a few games running there, a bunch of PS2 games, GameCube, and all of that. And I'm going to say this just so that everybody knows it. You have to be very careful with videos like that. They do a lot of heavy tweaking behind the scenes to get games running perfectly and look well. So you don't know exactly what is happening on the back end. You don't know what tweaks they're running, what they're doing. It's definitely not out of the box, we can tell you that. And for anybody that's had an Android device from Anbernic, the first thing you do is if you open PPSSPP or PS2, you can see a game config file for certain games like God of War. And that's because Anbernic tweaked them to look fantastic. And that's one of the reasons why when you change to, let's say, Gamma OS and you have to start from out of the box, a lot of games don't run as well as they did on the actual Anbernic firmware. And the reason being is you can see game configs that they did pre-configs for, like God of War, because they showed them off and they want it to be the best version of it. Now, you might be saying, well, that doesn't matter. I want games to run as great as possible, and so whatever tweaks, send them my way. And that's perfectly fine. But for the people that are expecting the out-of-the-box experience, and let's say you want to play God of War, but then play another game, and you're wondering why it's not running great. Reason being, you now have to run tweaks. And I fully expect that with the T820 chip in this device, you're going to be tweaking a lot of games. And you can already see this with the 4 Pro, and that's a lot more powerful than this. You have people that are running Aether SX2 and then Nether SX2. You have people running Citra MMJ and then Citra Canary. You have Dolphin from the Play Store, you have Dolphin Dev, you have Dolphin Beta. Apparently on the Retro Pocket 4, the Mario Sunshine doesn't work with Vulkan on Dev, but it does on Beta. And so this gets exhausting. You can kind of see that you're going to have to be doing a lot of tweaks if you want certain games running at their best. And I fully expect that's what this device will be. So just be careful. Out of the box experience, you're probably not going to get a good time here. But I fully expect that mostly the native resolutions for GameCube and PS2 and a good percentage of them will run pretty well, and the rest of them will need tweaks. On the other specs, we have 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than enough for what you need here. And there's 128 gigabytes of storage, which I would suggest you're probably going to need an SD card. 128 gigabytes is not a lot, especially if you're going to install any Android apps that only go on the internal storage, and your SD card is going to be portable storage. You're going to throw all of your ROMs, all of your games on there. So probably going to need an SD card, maybe a 256 or 512, which should be enough. We have Android 13 and then Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all of that, which is great. And then let's talk about the actual SD card, because when you look at this page and you see the different options, you're going to see a base option, has no SD card included, no games from Anbernic. Then there's a 128 gigabyte version and there's a 256 gigabyte version. The 128 says it has 4,400 games. The 256 gigabyte says it has 8,700 games. I'm going to go on a tangent here. Number one, there is no value associated to the number of games that are included in a device. Absolutely zero. If you're buying a device based on the number of games like some other creators push, that's the bad way to look at it. There is so many duplicates, so many non-English games, so many errors with them. If you happen to come across any Reddit posts about Pokemon Emerald and Pokemon Fire Red, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There is a lot of issues with these ROMs. So the first thing that you're going to do when you get this device, no matter what it is get your own SD card and put your own ROMs on it. And I get it, that can be scary. I have videos on that process, what it looks like. But it's going to be a better experience than just going with what comes out of the box. You're just going to run into so many issues. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get mad. And that's not going to help you. So do yourself a favor. Curate your own ROM library. You have a month before this ships. Lots of time to get caught up on how to do that. And just ignore all of the other options except for the base model if this is something you want to buy. Now, looking at other specs, there is a 5,500 milliamp hour battery in here, and they say 8 hours of battery life, which doesn't mean anything because we don't know what 8 hours is attributed to. Is it 8 hours of Super Nintendo? Is it 8 hours of on the screen? We don't know. So keep an eye out for reviews. We'll test that and figure it out. But let's talk about the actual other inclusions as well. There's no SD card for the base model, like I mentioned, but you're going to get a USB-C type cable, a screen protector, a manual, and basically just the normal basics that you would get with Anbernic. Now, as far as features of this device and what might set it apart from other devices, there's Hall effect joysticks and there's Hall triggers, finally, for Anbernic. We have a high-speed fan, and hoping it's not too high speed, the fan is the biggest thing. Now, if anybody's been following the Retroid Pocket 4 saga, you know that fan noise is a big issue, the fan wattage is a big issue, and just the amount of times that you have to use it. Hoping that Anbernic has done their due diligence here and that the fan is kind of a added bonus instead of a necessity. But we won't know that until we actually get the device in hands and see what the actual noise looks like, what it does, and all of that. Lastly, one other really cool benefit is there's a USB Type-C support for 1080p over DisplayPort, so not HDMI. So that's all the specs. Let's talk about the actual device and where I think it might be a benefit to some people and why you might want to order it. First thing I thought of when I saw this, obviously OLED screen, great, depending. But I think it would be a great option for those that want Moonlight streaming and just game streaming in general for under $200, because there isn't really anything like that except for the Absolute at about $199 right now. The Absolute has a bigger screen, but controls aren't that great, and it's just not a perfect device. Plus, it can't do really much emulation-wise where this can. So this is a bit more of a jack-of-all-trades kind of device if you want to do streaming. But on top of that, because it has joystick on the top for the left instead of D-pad on the top, I think it is a better option overall for those modern games and for streaming and everything like that. The Retroid Pocket 4, in comparison with the D-pad up top, didn't really make sense to me. It was a bit uncomfortable to hold, and I know a lot of people are buying grips because of that, and I would highly suggest that if you're going to get the Retroid Pocket 4 to get a grip. But I think this will be a lot more comfortable, and you can already see the ergonomics. You can see the back of it. It's not flat. They have actual ergonomics and comfort in place. This looks like it'll be a lot better of an option for people that aren't happy with the Retroid Pocket 4 for comfort. And that'll be me. I fall into that camp. Otherwise, looking at the actual device, we have everything that it should have. There's the joysticks, the D-pad, which looks different than the normal Anbernic D-pad. So I think they're using something new. It looks a little bit bigger. We have the buttons and all of that on the front screen, which is great. One thing I don't like is there's down-firing speakers, and I wish they would have just done front-firing speakers, but just, again, same as the Retroid Pocket 4, for some reason it's not valuable for them to do that, and I think that's a bit of a miss. And lastly, overall, it just looks like it might be a decent device. From this price point, I don't think it's overpriced in any way, shape, or form. It seems to be right priced. It's just a matter of, we need to know what it'll do performance-wise. And we'll need to know just if it makes do on what it's promising. Will there be any issues? Because on paper, it's great to say, yeah, this is awesome on paper. And then you order it and you get it in and it's a KTR1. Hoping that this isn't that scenario, hoping that Anbernic has all their ducks in a row for what this release is going to be. And this should be a good option for a lot of people that are looking for an alternative to Retroid Pocket 4, especially when you consider that the Retroid Pocket 4 and 4 Pro just aren't available worldwide. So a lot of people that just aren't in North America have a lot of trouble ordering from Retroid. Whereas Anbernic doesn't have that problem. They have AliExpress stores, they have Anbernic.com. It's a lot easier for somebody in a different part of the world to order this device. And so as long as this is close enough to a base Retroid Pocket 4, which is basically where this performance should be, then we should be good. But time will tell. We have a month. I don't think anybody should be rushing to order this. You have till March 5th for the discount. Wait to see what reviews come out. Wait to see who gets it in their hands. Wait to see what the thoughts are. Otherwise, let me know in the comments below. Are you interested in this device at all? Is it on your radar? If so, why? What's kind of the driving force between why you're looking at this compared to other devices? I'll keep everybody up to date on when my review unit arrives, and we'll go from there. Don't forget to like and sub to help the channel grow, and hope you all have a good one.